How are the members feeling? Temperature?
Cold.
Tell Mr. Singh to warm up the submarine. You're cold. I recognize the honorable member for St. Paul, who has asked permission to read his first portion of his presentation.
I'm going to ask for variation, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry?
I'm going to ask to vary that, and it will now be the last portion. Yes, the portion on foreign affairs, which is a globally beamed statement. Yes. Yes, sir.
To read that into the record.
Yes.
I said first, but in fact you told me first.
I did say first.
Yeah, well, let the people know that.
I reordered my presentation this morning, or this afternoon.
Yeah, okay, and permission has been granted also for the member to use visual aids.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to the 2023 budget estimates. I think it's only fair that I start by giving commendations, and those are absolute, total, superlative, to the quality of the presentation we heard from the Honourable Prime Minister. I think I have some bona fides I can use in doing so. I've been 15 times around this block. In other words, I've heard 15 presentations of the budget. I've heard 5 in the upper house as a senator, and this is the 10th iteration of a budget presentation that I'm happening to be a part of this hallowed halls of Parliament. What I like about the budget, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that it covered all areas. And in a very practical way, the allocations were made based on present-day realities. We all wish we had great allocations. I myself, when I speak to Foreign Affairs, will ask that consideration be given, even now, to increase allocations in 2024. But again, I understand the times in which we are, a country fighting its way out of COVID, a country having to find employment for its people, a country having to manage the affairs of government, which include our education portfolio or sector, our telecom sector, our sporting sector, agriculture, fishery, you name it. All sectors must be covered, and they must be covered in a realistic way. I don't wish to create a budget with any great deficit. Mr. Speaker, it is the norm, and I just said it a while ago, that I would start my budget presentation with the Foreign Affairs portfolio. But I believe that it is apropos that I start this afternoon with agriculture. I started agriculture for the sole reason, simple reason, that before the break, we heard from the member of St. George, a self-professed former farmer. What he did not tell the House is that he also tried fishing, and that too failed. Notwithstanding, I want to put in the record at Hansard. I said so cross-talking, I'll say so now on my feet, that he will not get away in this House with light money from the state without working. And I intend to engage him, who claims to have agricultural interests and knowledge in developing a new paradigm for agriculture in this country. And that's the first challenge. The second challenge for Member St. George is that given his notoriety for singing the papaya tree on 6 acres of land, I am going to name him as the person to coordinate a papaya festival in this country. I'm not over to joke this time around. I'm serious business.
You want a failed festival?
No, it won't fail, because you'll have me Prime Minister. You'll have me and this team ensuring that the papaya festival is a success. Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I want today to demonstrate that this government takes seriously the issue of food security, food safety, and food sovereignty. Serious. I want to also be very clear in rebutting some of the assertions made by my colleague on the other side, the member for St. George, that what we see here is a sector which has underperformed for decades. For decades. And even the period of Robert Hall, where we claim to have done so well, the records don't quite show that. But I will give credit to all of my predecessors who came as ministers of agriculture, recognize the work they've done, and give a commitment on my part and the part of my team, as my permanent secretary and the director of agriculture and others sent to the chamber. I give a commitment on behalf of this team that we will improve the lot of our farmers in Antigua and Barbuda. Mr. Speaker, the agricultural sector is one in need of fresh beginnings, is one which has much potential. And here is where I think my team and I join the discussion. I'm glad to know that my colleague from the other side is prepared to make agriculture a big issue. But I don't want anybody. It is serious work, requiring serious people. And here's where today on my feet, I invite the nation of Antigua Barbuda, my colleague on the other side included, to raise your gaze and to lift your game as we set about to create a new vision for agriculture in this country. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, before I delve into the new vision, the next level changes in agriculture, to make a few statements of fact. One, agriculture and our farmers must embrace the investments as private business people. Government will always be an enabler. Government has, and government will always have to incentivize agriculture. But we must not, for political purposes, paint a picture and encourage farmers to believe that they're mendicants to run the government for everything. It's a powerful sector, lots of potential. Those in Antigua who are big in agriculture have made millions. Don't want to call anybody's name, but allow me to call at least two. Georgie Purcell, he has made significant sums from his toil in agriculture. My neighbor Alvin Christian, he too has made significant or had significant returns on his investment, because they have upscaled their operations and they've taken agriculture seriously. We have been encouraging farmers over the years into this hand me out, give me kind of mentality, rather than encouraging them to upskill themselves through training and the sector through proper incentives and investments. The Speaker, we heard this morning from the member for St. George about water to farmers. Now, we all know the arid conditions in which we live. And that is not today or yesterday. This is something that has been ongoing for generations. The crop that we all knew when agriculture was king in this country did not require water. You stick a cane to shoot in the ground and it goes anyhow. But today's agricultural output and responsibility is different. What I can say to the member for St. George and to the nation is that the cabinet of this country, led by Prime Minister Gaston Brown, has made two decisions, two separate decisions, to accord farmers, bona fide farmers, registered farmers, subsidized water through APA. Mark you, we had farming before Gaston Brown became Prime Minister, isn't it? We had farming before Baldwin Spencer became Prime Minister, isn't it? And during his tenure. Did you ever hear on the UPP administration any subsidies for water for farmers? No. Well, we have made the decision because, again, it's a demonstration of how seriously we're taking the issues of food safety, food security, and food sovereignty. I want to go further. I've consulted my colleague, Minister of Aid, and in the next 14 days, farmers who have submitted their documentation and whose farm operations are, of course, bona fide, will start to see the commencement of the installation of water on their farms. You tell me, must come to the job and come and do things good? I'm here. I'm off to a flying start. And it's not only me. I'm only the face of what is being said and what has been done This is coming from a team of men and one beautiful woman who sit in our midst. I am saying what I'm presenting you today is a new vision for agriculture. The member Barbuda sat there and said, well, Minister, do something. As a matter of fact, when you spoke earlier, member for St. George, I realized that had I spoken first, you would have nothing to say.
Exactly.
Had I spoken first, you would have had nothing to say. And I think that what you did, you realized that you are going to just be a typical big issue discussion, observer style. But let me remind us that this is the House of Parliament. Here we come make rules and laws and debate in the interest of the people. This is not the partisan radio program that we all engage in. When we get here, game must raise. Because what we call upon to do is to float all boats, not some, all boats in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, the first point. All registered farmers are encouraged to go into APUA and have their water services registered, or their name registered for water services, and we will start within 2 weeks with installation of water. I made a point about a cabinet decision. It is 25 plus 25%. So it's 50% subsidy for water for farmers, realizing how important food security, food sovereignty, and food safety is in this country. That is more important, Mr. Speaker, because as we go into the dry season, farmers will understand the importance of getting registered now. And my colleague, Minister of APU and his team, will understand the urgency of now to get those farmers once registered with APUA connected, so we can deliver on a promise, and we check it in the box, and we'll all say in unison, promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, the issue of fertilizers. Yes, the UPP administration started a program with fertilizers from the Kingdom of Morocco. And as a good, responsible government, understanding what that meant and means to farmers, we did not scuttle it. We expanded it. And so that more fertilizers come to this country now than under the UPP. As a matter of fact, just before the election, Prime Minister noticed, the Kingdom of Morocco invited me to come over there as Foreign Minister to discuss with them relations between Antigua and Barbuda. It happens now I have a portfolio of agriculture. I'll be seeking to further expand the fertilizer program because we have more persons taking an interest in farming in Antigua and Barbuda. I hope to welcome the member for St. George back to the agriculture sector, this time in a meaningful way. Mr. Speaker spoke about farmers and lands. The Minister of Public Works, the member for St. John's Rural East, who also holds responsibility for lands. We have been subdividing free of cost and surveying free of cost lands for farmers in this country. We are now on the cusp, Mr. Speaker, of dealing with the issue of the leases for farmers. We are on the cusp of dealing with the issue, delivering the leases to farmers. And so when a few have been extended, but I'm talking about them in a major way. When I talk about us having a premium, placing a premium on food security, food safety, and food sovereignty, these are the kinds of initiatives that this government bring and offer to our farmers. I only have to be the vehicle. We know that since previous Labour Party administrations, farmers in this country got everything duty-free. And so if they can find anything else they want duty-free, tell me. I said everything, Prime Minister, everything. And here the challenge, if you can find anything else, bring that too. Because we have a commitment to ensure that food security in this country is not only spoken about, but looked after. We understand as a government the food shortages that are plaguing other areas of the world. We hear the stories of shelves in England empty, in Canada empty. We have not had those problems in Antigua and Barbuda because this government has intervened at every step of the way to ensure that not only farmers, but our traders themselves are taken care of to the benefit of Antiguans and Barbudans. You talk of seeds, giving seeds to farmers. I see Mr. Alabanjo up in the gallery. Mr. Alabanjo, I'm not one to threaten people, but I want to tell you now, we need to multiply at least twofold our seedlings to farmers and backyard gardeners. We have to do it. It falls and fits snugly into our mission and mandate of ensuring that food security, food sovereignty is assured in this country. And so those of you who occupy positions in the civil service, in the public service, who have a responsibility to ensure that government's policies are carried out, I charge you with doing so with alacrity. We can't be lagging. We can't be talking food security on one hand and not doing the things consequential to ensure that we have food security in our country. Mr. Speaker, issue of fencing. We've been fencing, well, PM, I'm coming to dams. When I do the substantive presentation, I'm only responding to the assertions, to show how baseless they are, how unfounded, and to make the point again, we cannot use the parliament the way we use a big issue program on radio. The parliament of Antigua and Barbuda will be seen as a holy place where serious things are discussed. And truth at all times. We heard the member for St. Philip's South this morning. When I challenged him on the source of his assertions, he fell apart. He was creating his own data and his own fact. You cannot, because, Mr. Speaker, the issue of the farm trust referred to in Budget 2023, what it tells you, it is a projection for the year 2023. You speak of it as the Prime Minister said that we had a farm trust in 2022, 2021, 2020. We did not have that. It is part of the food security, food safety initiative. A farm trust, member for St. George, is a new construct by this government to deal with the issues of our farming sector and ensuring our people are kept safe. You made mention of visiting farmers. Some other minister before me took him 1 year before he visited a farm, and another one took 2 years before. Guess what? The pictures are all around the world. I, from the day I became Minister of Agriculture, started a national conversation with farmers. I'm not going to be an office farm Minister of Agriculture. I will spend time in the office, yes, but farming is done out there. And for those who do not yet know, it is farming that schooled me, educated me. My sisters there in the gallery, they too were schooled by farming. Our father was a farmer. He had two professions. He was a mason. He had to build your building, the Lukes. As a child, I came down one day sick and saw my father's high building. Little boys, so he look high. He helped to build Mill Reef. At the age of 13, when I was 13, my father said, hey, he ain't doing that no longer. Too much rip off in that sector. And he downed his tools and told me, my brother Saeed, if I know I'm going to die, I bury those tools. I must not ever get into construction. I'm not saying it's a right position, but it's based on his experience. But he went into agriculture. As a child, I had to find myself on the farm in Fremont, watering plants, reaping. And so what you see me do at backyard gardening or even maintaining my father's farm in Fremont, it is not anything new to me. Roll up my sleeves and buckling down, getting my knees even, nothing new. So I'm not a typical agriculture minister. I'm one with practical experience and who places a value on the work by farmers because I know how it goes. When you have plenty of talent, you find all kinds of things happening. Mr. Speaker, another thing I need to rubbish is the notion that Chinese are here to take over agriculture in Antigua. I have to rubbish that from the get-go. The Chinese are here to assist us with their technological advancements. They have a large population in the world and they feed them. So we can't learn anything from that. That's not fact alone. We can't learn anything. They feed all of their people. And we have a problem feeding 100,000. They introduce new varieties, cauliflower, broccoli, things that people for years in this country are afraid to grow. And we talk about agriculture now. This notion we can grow everything. I want to demystify and debunk ourselves of that. We have to identify select crops that we will grow. We have to identify select crops that we grow. It can't be everything. It can't be Antigua only. When we do select crops, we must also look at the potential for export. We must look at value added. All the potato and cassava, so we have, how do we get machinery involved to preserve them and to add value? So we have flour as opposed to cassava. All of us have the cassava put down for a couple of days, start to unblock. We need polishers, we need all kinds of things to deal with it. You're showing me Budget 23. Budget 23 gives allocations. The minister on his feet, as the Prime Minister would have said, will give the details, the meat of the matter. So I'm giving the meat of the matter for agriculture in this country. I have consulted with my technicians, my officers. But the notion that Chinese are here to take over agriculture, it is misplaced, misguided. And you mentioned the noises. Very important, the word you used. You made a lot of noise when they came the first time. I'm asking you to tone the decibels down. Let's have a meaningful engagement, a meaningful conversation about this country. About this country. The Chinese are here to take over agriculture. They have to help us. And so what I want you to do on your, since you want to use the big issue, make agriculture a big issue, I want to take this big issue back to the people. That farmers are encouraged by the Minister of Agriculture to even individually make contact with the Chinese who are here, so that the transfer of knowledge, technology can be had. It's the only how we can lift our game. And I want, well, I'm talking about stakeholders, and I'm taking it to the minutest of levels. I'm saying even individually. They can leave their farm in potworks, in Berks, in Northside, and they can go where the Chinese are doing this stuff in Bendels. Mr. Speaker, from the get-go, one day after election, I was interviewed, one day after I was appointed, I was interviewed by the Nation Station, ABS, and asked us how I see my portfolio of agriculture. And I was very clear that we're going to leverage our relations in foreign affairs to the benefit of agriculture. See the Chinese project as just one of those initiatives. We're leveraging our relationship with China for the benefit of our farmers, for agriculture, for food safety, food security, food sovereignty. Like Morocco. Just like you people did in Morocco. I guess they didn't know what they were doing, but that's what it is. You're leveraging national relations for the benefit of your people. Mr. Speaker, the issue of farm roads was made into a big issue by the member for St. George. I want to ask the member, through you, Speaker, before 2014, how many farm roads were built by the UPP? Or did agriculture start in 2014 when Gaston Brown became Prime Minister? Well, let me tell you, because I promise you I'd give you an answer. Since coming to office and since starting the farm road program, we have done farm roads with the Wildlife Tribe, in Body Pond, in Sanderson's, the road from Berks to Liberty that started, and in Ross Freeman. And as I said this morning in Crosstalk, it is work in progress. And we're not only doing roads. We're not only doing roads. We're also doing. I'm answering you. All Herb Chipilana Burks. Don't trivialize it. Don't trivialize this discussion. I'm going to stick on you like white and rice until you raise your gaze, raise your game. Since you're shadowing me in agriculture, we're going to have a common position on agriculture in this country. That's my commitment to you. As long as you're serious, as long as you're committed, I will share the path and you will follow. So don't make it sound like the roads to Berks and to Sanderson's are all her field. Because farmers that grow other types of food are in those areas. Mr. Speaker, the issue of predator lastly, a major problem in this country. Major problem. And that's why we're upgrading farm roads, putting in light security lights, so farmers can have the benefit of support. In a normal situation, say, well, farms being private enterprise should themselves put these in. But we understand the level of farmers. And that's why government incentivizing the sector, supporting the sector, working with them to ensure that that level of comfort, security that is required is provided by the government. Mr. Speaker, those would be the issues raised by the member from the other side that I want to at this stage rubbish and put in the context with a call, a simple call, that we do not use the parliament for simple and cheap political gain, especially when the other side has the facts. And that caution is not just to you. It's a caution exercise across the board. That none of us should, like the member for St. Philip South, try to create our own facts. Like the member for St. George, try to play games with things as important as agriculture. Yes, the sector is beyond the service. Yes, it's beyond performing. But let us go. Lift our game. Give that level of comfort, security, encouragement, and support to our farmers. Mr. Speaker, I have some charts I want to share. And I ask the Sergeant at Arms to assist me. As we look at the whole question of the agricultural sector, and just how we, on this side, see the opportunities. And that's what it really is. It's a sector ripe of opportunities. There's a new global vision in agriculture, Mr. Speaker, which calls for the attainment of sustainable agricultural development, and simultaneously the delivery of food security, environmental sustainability, and economic opportunity. And that's a global standard. Not an Antigua standard, a global standard. I want to declare today that we in Antigua Barbuda, we identify with a global standard. And we will not only aim to increase food production by 20%, poverty by 20%, but given where we are in the sectoral development, we are committed through the investments we make as a government, through the bonding with our farmers and would-be farmers, and the good of our nation. We will seek to go beyond, to increase production not by 20%, but by 25%, to reduce our food import bill not by 20%, but by 25%, and not only to reduce poverty by 20%, but by 25%. This is possible, Mr. Speaker, as I said, given the levels of production in our country today and the opportunities that exist in the sector. I don't know if ABS is here. I would have given the charts. The Speaker, the other area we want to show you. To make the point, our food import bill in 2022 was $139 million. In 2021, it was 119. In 2020, it was 101. In 2020, sorry, 101. And in 2019, 116 million. We realized that there was a drop in the importation bill during the COVID period. Naturally, hotels closed, and that had an impact on the overall imports. Mr. Speaker, we also have on those charts, and you have them in your hands now, even though it's not on the screen, the chart showing 15 items produced locally and how those items stack up against the National Food Import Bill. We'll notice that except for eggs, we see a continued increase in the food import bill. And if we use eggs as the point of discussion, we'll all agree that we can do better. I want to thank my colleague, Minister of Environment, and his team for the importation of a piece of machinery that can be used to make the egg boxes. Now that's very important. Sounds simple? Very important. If we're already self-sufficient in eggs, but we're importing our egg boxes now from overseas, and we now get to the point where we can make our own egg boxes, that speaks of development. That speaks of the new vision that this government brings to the area of agriculture. Using boxes that are in the environment, recycling boxes, to make egg boxes for our egg producers. Mr. Speaker, In responding to my colleague, I would have touched on a number of the other areas of my presentation, but I want to look at the question of water security and how we plan to deal with that, because you can't have any real agricultural sector without water. $20 dams. Take note. My government intends to build over the next 5 years 20 dams. The areas have already been identified. I don't know if they have the pictures to put on the screens. We have started the building of dams. We'll continue to build them. And I was convinced of this being a solution when I visited 2 weeks ago some more farms. I went to the farm just not far from my house, belonged to my neighbor Alvin Christian, who explained to me that throughout, notwithstanding drought conditions, he never has a water problem. That's one farmer. I went to the Potworks Dam at the farm of George Purcell, former schoolmate. And he too explained, never has water problems. So if drought is a perennial problem, but farmers, at least two, would have found a solution by creating dams which serve them throughout the dry conditions, it tells me that a solution can be found in digging more dams. It's not rocket science. We also are going to complement dams with wells. And I go further, Mr. Speaker. There's currently a project on the way between the government of Antigua and Barbuda and FAO, where we're tapping into abandoned wells by APUA. I look to my left, forgetting the minister changed. APUA abandoned wells because of the saline content of those wells, making it no longer wells for potable water. But through the use of a small portable RO plant, those wells are now being tapped into, water treated, and if the experiment works, that becomes another source, dedicated source of water for farmers. You understand the level of commitment we have to this process? You understand the vision that drives this government where food security, food sovereignty is concerned? Mr. Speaker, we intend to build and repair this year at least 5 of those dams. This fiscal year, 2023. Build or repair. We plan to assist farmers with water retention and distribution systems. Another project ongoing now with FAO, looking at the whole question of tanks, additional tanks dedicated to the agricultural sector. Improve water harvesting. Yes, we have a problem with droughts, but we have a problem too with persons not harvesting water properly. When we do have rain, what do? We see it all go back to the sea. And so we are looking at all those things, all those ways of impacting the agricultural sector to the benefit of our farmers and certainly to the benefit of our food security initiatives. I would mentioned earlier, Mr. Speaker, that building roads, repairing roads, farm roads is work in progress. Another point raised this morning was the use of arable strategically too, a land use policy. A land use policy takes into account not only our need for national food security, but also other areas of national development, including housing. We have a growing population. And so we have to, as a country, as a people, buckle down in a non-partisan political way to have these discussions. Everything in the country can't be blue and red. There comes a time when we have to congeal, work together to decide what's in our best interest. We want also, Mr. Speaker, invest in farm management and best practices. And as for CMC, yes, changes are coming. CMC will have to be that agency of government, and not only CMC, if not CMC, a new organ, a new entity that will deal with the procurement, the purchase of farmers' produce. I've made a statement from the get-go that he who produces food should not be the same man selling the food. My farmers are better off in the farms producing food. Let's find agencies and entities and individuals who have marketing skills and capabilities to help market the food. If a farmer goes to town Saturday morning, he must not be after, 6 days of toil or 5 days of toil in the field to sit down and crunch up for 6 hours, 7 hours to sell food. I believe we can start with the CMC revolution almost immediately in the meat section. We rather compete with local meat farmers. CMC can buy all the meat from our farmers and then sell. That brings to the fore, member for St. George, that which you ask of me as Minister of Trade. How do I protect the borders from importations? We have to look at it seriously. When I see the numbers, and they're there in the slides, of how many sheep and cattle and pigs were accounted for in the last period, it doesn't make no sense. It tells me we're importing far more than we need to, and we need a little protectionist arrangement with respect to our farmers. And I believe rather than CMC selling boneless meat, competing with farmers who have to take back pounds and pounds and pounds, hundreds of pounds of meat to their respective places of board or workshops, that we need butcher stalls. We need to find protection for those farmers, and CMC can become the vehicle to buy all that meat. And why is they buy the meat? They too much be protected, because they can't have CMC having a large outlay to farmers, and then the borders remain porous to imports. We have to protect. I know protectionism is an obsolete word in trade, but we're as a small country, we have to find ways, constructs, by which to protect in order to grow and develop the sector. Mr. Speaker, the issue of chicken. No country in the world eat more chicken per capita than Antigua and Barbuda. None. I'm pleased to report to this honorable House, or let me rephrase that. I'm pleased to report to the nation, through this honorable House, that the government of Gaston Alfonso Brown has made a deposit already for the procurement of a chicken abattoir. When we last saw chicken as an issue in this country, it was about its color, blue. We are now going to put the levers of ownership and development of that sector into the hands of our people. I talk about, Mr. Speaker, our love for chicken. It is that love for chicken and the size of our national import that has driven us in the direction of fashioning this particular policy intervention. And so when the member for St. George knocks on the estimates 2023, you will not find that inside the estimates. You will not find it there. You will not find the deposit that was paid to the supplier of the abattoir. But I come here today and report to the nation through this honorable parliament that we have already made the initial investment, and we will be moving in the direction of having our own chicken abattoir. Not only are we going to go to abattoir, we realize that to have abattoir, we must have a hatchery. And so we are looking right after the abattoir into the hatchery. And we also understand the whole question of the feeds. So we'll also be looking at a feed mill to support the industry. So in other words, we're going from a cradle to the grave, or an all-encompassing situation, to ensure that that very important element of national food security. Hear the word again? National food security, national food safety, national food sovereignty, that those matters are addressed by this administration. Take into account what are the things required to develop our people in our country and the sector, agriculture. I tell you, if you stick with me, you learn things though. And if you work with me, I can carry places. Mr. Speaker, we also want, but we will be looking at the whole question of the quality of seeds that our farmers use in their daily work. Too many substandard seeds in the system. You agree with me on that? Too many substandard seeds. And if you have substandard seeds, you're going to get substandard production. So if you're going to optimize our production, and Mr. Bailey, my director, and then I'm going around looking, I want to say head left and right, okay? Anytime you have substandard seeds or inputs, naturally, the outcome is substandard. We'll also be looking at the whole question of the quality of our workers. For too long, agriculture has been seen as a backwater activity. Anybody who is not what they want to become in life, agriculture. And I'm saying, agriculture is a very scientific area. I'm not saying school jobs should not be in it. But what we say from this side is that if you come to agriculture, no matter where you come, we're prepared now to train you so you can make a meaningful contribution to the sector. And so we're going to be talking to UE shortly, because the vision is to have short courses by UE in agriculture. And since the campus at Five Islands is intended to serve the Eastern Caribbean countries, we know in our Eastern Caribbean area that at least 3 countries or 4 with enhanced or improved agricultural systems: Grenada, St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Vincent. We said at least they have systems advanced to us. But we believe if UE fashions a course of study, it can help them to lift their game too. And so that the whole food security issue is not as an Antiguanized initiative, but it becomes sub-regional, with Antigua and Barbuda once again taking the lead. You know, that's our mission. Anyway, see the name Antigua Barbuda. If you go to a meeting, you're head of the class. Hey. If you talk about how you work against a pandemic called COVID, and you want to say a good example, hey, Antigua. If you want to talk about a prime minister who has vision and who could have saved a rotten banking system for those who are now going through those challenges, look to Antigua. And so we want to always be in the lead. We make an apology for it. And I want you on the other side not to feel in any way inferior to anybody. You're Antigua and Barbuda just like me. When you step out with a plum. But before you can do so, you have to learn the subject. It's not just bravado sake. Because when we talk on the side, we back chat with real weight. Okay? Mr. Speaker, my ministry has been allocated an additional $2.23 million. My colleague from the other side sought to rubbish the allocation as being insignificant, sought to make it sound like, oh, it's only to pay salaries. Guess what? Who are we paying salaries to? Martians? We're paying salaries to Antiguans and Barbudans. And so if a government in these trying times, coming out of the pandemic, crafts a budget which takes into account employment of its people, that ought to be commended. You could put all your money in infrastructure development. How would that help your people? How would that help the people? And if you don't employ them, and you watch a wave of crime and violence in the country, don't you take responsibility? Again, I know, member for St. George, that you are a freshman in this area, but some things are not about freshmen or how long you're in the system. Some things just call for applied common sense. Applied consequences are obvious. And so, you use a word very, very importantly this morning. The whole question of creativity. How do you use creative things to get the results you look for? And as I said to you a while ago, I made it very clear. I will use, from where I sit, or leverage international relations to grow that sector called agriculture. The whole question, Mr. Speaker, of agri-processing is something we're dealing with at the moment as a government, and I'm sure that by the next time I speak to this Parliament, we will have more by way of report on that area. Mr. Speaker, I wish to place in record 2 new initiatives, But before doing so, let me quickly commit, while on my feet, to the members of the Antigua-Barbuda Association of Persons with Disabilities that the Ministry of Agriculture will be working with you in developing your agricultural projects. We value very highly your contributions as nationals. We see with interest your plight. And so Mr. Alabanjo, my director, and my PS, who are all here, will hear me give a commitment to you today that to the Association of Persons with Disabilities, we will be to your rescue to ensure that your agricultural projects take place and that your members who are interested in agriculture benefit. Now on to the two new initiatives, two new and exciting initiatives, Mr. Speaker. One is a model farm initiative. As we try to expand and to grow and to even excite the sector into this notion of a new vision, we are creating a few model farms across the country, using smart modern technologies, sustainable farming to include weed mats and seedling productions, intended to augment the livelihoods of our farmers. The second, Mr. Speaker, is the incorporation of all available technologies to include shade houses, greenhouses, aquaponics, hydroponics, into the expanded backyard gardening program. We saw during the COVID pandemic an explosion of backyard gardening. We're taking it to the next level. We're talking about next level now. They're not a cliche. It's not just political, sound bites. It's what we mean. We mean it. With less land available, we believe and we know that with the new initiatives, introduction of technology, our backyard gardens will see greater yields, and our country will have a better yet organized and performing backyard garden program. Mr. Speaker, in short, it is time to raise the stakes for and to modernize the outlook and its productive capacity. That's in short. Short yet, it's time for next level. Mr. Speaker, I will not go through today, and I make apologies to my technicians who've all given submissions. You'd realize in the general thrust that your submissions have been incorporated. But I give a commitment that we will be overhauling and reviewing all the departments in the Ministry of Agriculture. When I went there, I said a department named Cotton. Cotton Department. Cotton. So that makes the point. We have to review. It may just be a nomenclature issue, but we have to deal with a review, a renewal of the entire structure, the whole org chart. Everything needs to be modernized in keeping with the new vision for the sector. We also, Mr. Speaker, already undertaking the repair of equipment. When I went to the tractor pool upon taking office 1 week after, 2 weeks after, of 11 tractors, there are 2 working. Right away, went to the cabinet. Prime Minister can't work with this. And you know he's a farmer himself. So that made my life easy. No, there goes the farmer, there goes the farmer. We have already started the process of repairing the tractors and the equipment at the pool. Cabinet also gave permission to explore the possibility of creating our own workshop. So we can't be sending agricultural equipment down to the government workshop. They never come back. I'm not saying anything about the workshop, Minister Brown, because the truth is, it's about prioritizing. When you have a truck that has to fix roads, or one that has to remove sludge, alongside a tractor, then it becomes a management decision. Which one gets fixed first? And so to prioritize agriculture, we are seeking to have specialized services. It will also create employment. We also have an issue when the tractors have to go to get diesel at the pump. They have to wait in line because school bus comes first. An ambulance must come before that. And so we've also sought permission and gained permission to create our own fuel dock. Those, again, Madam PS, are just recent discussions with the Cabinet, decisions of the Cabinet. I'll turn to you with your background and your years of experience to help fashion those into policies, putting in place, of course, all the necessary measurements to make sure we have them managed effectively and efficiently. I will end my agricultural bit, Mr. Speaker, with an announcement. I hope that my papaya producing friend will find great comfort in this one, because on the PLM it didn't happen, on the UPP it didn't happen, on this administration, goes and avocados into the United States of America. Under this administration, in the last term, we also secured permission to ship lobsters into China. The regulations are now being tweaked to deal with the issue of the wider seafood to the EU. But again, like I said, we have work to do on the ground. Look, we don't talk about it. Maybe we're guilty of them not boasting, not talking about these things. We do these things as a matter of course. So, Mr. Speaker, we are on our way. And for those who may wish to challenge my assertion about the exports to the United States, the farmer or the person who has the license is Antiguan by the name of William Francis.
See why Parliament is good?
Mr. Speaker, I want to turn my attention now to another of the new assignments given to me by the Prime Minister at the conclusion of the last election. Before I do so, let me remind my friends on the other side, election done. Time to buckle down and do the people's work. Governments don't fall like decks of cards. So those who have this notion that, oh, if we make noise, the government will topple, it doesn't work like that. Precisely. Let history record all of us as respecting the wish of the people, the will of the people, when they, in their own discretion, re-elected Labour administration to government in the last election. Mr. Speaker, on the portfolio position of Barbuda Affairs, I can say without fear of contradiction that there is no question that this administration has recovered Barbuda and that Barbuda is being revitalized in a way that benefits the inhabitants and the area enormously. There's absolutely no comparison between Barbuda pre-Irma and Barbuda post-Irma. The landscape has changed. If you have not yet gone to Barbuda, Antiguans, I encourage you to go now. See for yourself. If you have never been to Barbuda before Irma, just find some old photographs and then take a trip. And you will see that what was promised has been delivered. I remember being to Barbuda before the 2014 elections. And Prime Minister Gaston Brown, then leader of the opposition, made a statement likening Barbuda to diamond in the rough, giving a commitment to the nation and most of the Barbudans that we will build an economy on Barbuda. Today, Barbuda is already making, even though the transformation is in progress, already making contributions to national development. Being appointed minister with responsibility for Barbuda, I journeyed to Barbuda, and I engaged with the council. From this parliament and parliamentary debate today, let me acknowledge the council members, cite them for maturity and an apparent seriousness in our discourse. There was one council member who, on a previous trip to Barbuda, had threatened to kill me, was the most respectful and positive in our engagement. Said he, and I'm just paraphrasing, this minister is serious. Let us work with him. And so I'm pleased, Mr. Speaker, that from this side, the government of Antigua and Barbuda, we can report to the nation that these 5 projects have started in Barbuda. At least 5. We have the PLH, which is a 10-year build-out project at $2.5 billion, the single largest, US dollars, the single largest project in the Twin Island states, our state of Antigua and Barbuda, and certainly beyond. We have the Paradise Fund, which is another $250 million development. The Dulcina, which is now completely owned by nationals. A very important point. Because we also have a commitment in this country that our development will not be just by invitation. As a matter of fact, that Arthur Lewis concept is no longer relevant. I want to say it, I'm no economist, but I have common sense, and I follow national and international developments. That Arthur Lewis model is no longer relevant in today's environment. That industrialization by invitation thing is no longer relevant. And so our people are called upon to step up, to raise their game. And here's where I want to put on record my appreciation and congratulations to the local, the national group of nationals who invested in the recreation of Dulcina. That project valued at $150 million. That speaks to a couple of things. It speaks to an appreciation or respect, or better yet, confidence in the government's policies that locals will make that kind of investment in the economy. It also speaks to a question of an invitation to others to join that group in investing in our national economy. Our future cannot be simply put in the hands of others. We have got to take responsibility, take ownership. And those must be no cliches, no jargon. Those will be something we live by. We live by those. And so, Member Barbuda, I'm expecting to see you in a personal way match the $150 million of former group, a group of locals, to make another matching investment on Barbuda, along with the high-price boutique hotel. That's another $500 million, all in Barbuda. And you understand that in consequence of the decision to build Barbuda into a powerful hub, the government is building a brand new airport. And so, at the cost of $20 million, you look at terminal and FBO. Yeah, the airport. Went on $20 million for the terminal and the FBO, and $14 million for the runway. No, I said US, all US dollars. If I don't say EC, it's US. How about that?
Should be the reverse.
It should be. But since my colleagues on the other side all think in US, I'm making sure they understand. But Mr. Speaker, again, when you talk of the FBO and the terminal, you understand the potential for development, the potential for employment, for business, entrepreneurship in this country of our people? Taxi operators, rent-a-car operators, souvenir shops. There's a whole slew of activities around the airport in Barbuda yet to be tapped into. And I can speak authoritatively as a senior member of this government that those opportunities are being created for our people. Like I said, my Prime Minister, I'm only signaling 5. I could go on. Mr. Speaker, I want to also speak with respect to Barbuda on the EU-funded project that repaired or built 104 homes at a value of €5 million. Irma decimated Barbuda, housing stock totally wiped out, literally, and we had to find monies to assist Barbudans because of the archaic nature of land ownership, they had nothing in which to go to the bank to reinvest in the reconstruction of their homes. I remember it was 2019, Prime Minister, 18. We went to the Commonwealth meeting in London, and there were we beating the pavement trying to find money for Barbudans to build their homes. And the member of Barbuda was outside the same building we're going to beg money now. We're going to beg money for Barbudas. And the member of Barbuda outside picketing. Don't give anything about no money. No, we can't continue like this. You know. We cannot continue like this. We have to understand national interests. We have to know when, where, and how. And matters of national importance must see us congealing, working together. This thing about to whom the victor goes the spoils, that is old politics. National interest comes first, trumps all else. As a speaker today, I'm proud to know that we're able to make that intervention notwithstanding the protestations of member Barbuda. I'm pleased to know and to report that notwithstanding the Barbuda employing almost 80% or more than 80% of his workers being national, but absorbing literally all the potential workforce in Barbuda. Mr. Speaker, our plans for Barbuda are happening right before our eyes. If you had a doubt before that Barbuda was a land grab, as was suggested, it is now being demystified and hopefully totally debunked by now. The only interest that we have in the lands in Barbuda is to see the lands being used for the development and advancement of the people of Barbuda, and by extension, the economic development of the nation state of Antigua Barbuda. Only interest. Only interest. So the notion that, oh, they come to grab the land. Grab what land? It's about development. And increasingly, the people of Barbuda are seeing this. The people of Antigua and Barbuda are seeing this. And I ask the member of Barbuda, do not stand in the way of progress of Barbudans, but rather join in the movement for things positive. When I met you in Barbuda at the council meeting, you were rather warm in embrace. You were rather supportive of the vision. And so I'm hoping that we'll continue to have that oneness. Until they get through the door. I heard my colleague from St. John's City East, Rural East, City East, sorry, accused of there being two Trevors. I only have one Trevor. That's the one who has Antigua and Barbuda's interest at heart. I don't want to know the other one if he exists. And so let's continue to have a comradely relationship, one which acknowledges Antigua and Barbuda as our sole and common interest. Mr. Speaker, in acknowledgement of the value of the fisheries industry to Barbuda, and coming out of the meeting I had in Barbuda a few weeks ago, I remember, I'm sorry, because usually I'm the kind of person I tell you these things before I come to Parliament, right? It's my style. I don't believe in, springing surprises. But I'm pleased to report, within your hearing, that we have secured funding for some of the equipment required at the Fisheries Division. I'll ask you to have your fisheries officer make direct contact so that we can have, and direct contact from me is a letter, formal letter, confirming the items, and if he has sources and prices, that would be helpful. But the source will be tapped into, willing to make an investment to protect the livelihoods of Barbudans. Again, it must be seen for what it's worth. A commitment by this government to ensure that Barbuda's development is in lockstep and reflective of a common development across the nation. But as told you, they did freezers and other critical items, and so I'm pleased to report that those will be taken care of as soon as you can send me the information and the manufacturer informed. What are you people teams on? Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that notwithstanding issues of the past, much of it personalized, misconstrued, deliberately misrepresented in some instances for political benefits. As the minister entrusted with Barbuda affairs, I give a solemn, unequivocal commitment to work with the council and the people of Barbuda in ensuring that the development of Barbuda takes place in partnership, consultation with the people of Barbuda. What is needed is for there to be mutual trust and mutual confidence and a departure from the old politics of posturing and division. We, as I said, stand prepared, Mr. Speaker, to work with Barbuda. Very quickly, Mr. Speaker, before I go on to foreign affairs, I recognize in the gallery, this is Diane Rodriguez, head of our Bureau of Standards, a department of government which does some significant and serious work, but whose work is not, if I may use language in Parliament, not sexy, and so not much people take note of it. It's a serious work in terms of the quality of life here in this country. Where standards are concerned, the department has developed 15 national standards. They were all declared last year in 2022. Not only were there 15 national standards, but there are also another 12 standards developed on a regional basis with the input of our Bureau standards. The Bureau continues to provide technical services, metrology, calibrating pumps and scales and the like. 30 scales were calibrated in 2022, and 47 baggage scales at the VC Bird Airport were also verified in the same period. A total of 138 gas pump nozzles were also checked. And so what I'm doing in effect is reporting to you, the consumers, that you get your bang for the buck when you go to the gas pumps. Because the Department of Government that ensures that you get justice has done and continue to do their work. So all our gas stations have been checked, and what you get for the gallon is what you pay for. Or what you pay for the gallon is what you get. Mr. Speaker, there's a bill before the Parliament that we'll bring in terms of metrology from the department, and I just want to commend the department for the work they continue to do in servicing Antigua and Barbuda. Another department of the ministry is that of the NAO. I see Dr. Henry and his team in the gallery. Again, on the tyranny of the clock. I will not go through the gamut of their work, except to say that I'm pleased as Minister responsible for trade, that their work continues to keep Antigua and Barbuda on the forefront with respect to our treaty obligations and relations with the EU. And so, Dr. Henry, to your team, I want to say thanks to you, and I encourage you to continue to do the work on behalf of this country. Speaker, among the work that they do, of course, is, like I said, the whole management of our CARICOM and EU relations. And I can say without fear of contradiction that Antigua and Barbuda is, at this moment, at perhaps the zenith with respect to our international relations, or regional relations in CARICOM, and certainly with the EU. You'll have heard of recent discussions with the EU. I mentioned it a while ago on the fishing issue, trying to get our regulations up to date so we can start to ship seafood into Europe. Those are some of the things that the department continue to work on to ensure that we have national recognition and national respect. The whole question of the TVET program, that's another one of the issues under the remit of the NAO. I want to encourage Dr. Henry to make the TVET program known nationally. Buy radio ads, buy newspaper ads, so the public will know. Because it's a training program that can benefit our people. And I really want all our people to be in the same boat. You know, they say, not they say, but we have made a commitment to build a knowledge-based society. And so education, as reflected in the budget, with this largest core or slice of the pie, is exactly what we are using to develop our country. Speaker, the garment manufacturing industry, another part of the Ministry of Trade, located in Simon Bolivar Park. As Prime Minister, I know we can't do it now because, again, the financial times are such, but as soon as we can get to find a space for that entity. I think we should. That entity is responsible for training a number of seamstresses and tailors, and also helping the government with its bill on the school uniform production. I see they've also now gone into building uniforms for private and some public sector organizations. Again, another initiative of this government to ensure we create employment, create training, while at the same time managing the scarce resources of government. So, Speaker, I will now ask you leave permission, of course, to read into the records that element of my presentation, which addresses the ministerial responsibilities for foreign affairs. The Speaker, this administration has conducted its foreign policy as an extension of our domestic concerns. Simply put, the principles to which our foreign policy adheres are the very ones that advance the interests of our people and the values that we uphold as a society. Those values, Mr. Speaker, are based on 4 pillars. The pillars of fairness, equality, justice, and freedom. These values are important to Antigua and Barbuda. It is the value of freedom, Mr. Speaker, that allows an unfettered media and the open and public discussion of issues without fear of repression. It is freedom, Mr. Speaker, that allows our political parties, independent candidates, to campaign for elections to this National Assembly as representatives of the majority of the people who have faith in them, and to do so under the rule of law that honors the rights of free speech, the right to assemble, and the right to disagree. I am pleased, as your foreign minister, to report that we have absolutely no political prisoners in Antigua and Barbuda. And just as we will not tolerate them here, we deplore them in all and any other country. Freedom for us is too precious not to treasure it. Most of our people have arisen out of slavery and exploitation. Our foreparents fought for the freedom that we enjoy today. We will not compromise it, not at any level. Our foreign policy also stands for fairness and justice. That's why we rail against climate change and its harmful impact on our country. We did not cause climate change, but we know that we are the ones who suffer most as its victims. And if current trends persist, we will suffer even more. Therefore, as part of our foreign policy, we actively engage against climate change in every international forum, making the case that we should be entitled to compensation for loss and damage that others have inflicted upon us. Whether it's the United Nations and its agencies, at the OAS, at the IMF, and the World Bank, we have made a case for fairness and justice for our small country, and we will continue to do so. Our government is also in the vanguard of a very revolutionary effort to utilize international law and the agencies of international legal system to seek justice. As co-chair of the Commission of Small Island States, a UN-registered body of which we are also a founder, we requested an opinion from the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea to determine the obligations to us from those countries that are the worst polluters. Mr. Speaker, we want fairness. The global financial system is skewed against developing societies that are pulling ourselves up by our own bootstraps. At independence, we inherited a country that was wallowing in an economic backwater. This nation strived hard to build our economy so that today we have one of the highest per capita incomes in all of Latin America and the Caribbean. It did not happen by osmosis, and certainly not through laziness. Successive Labour Party administrations worked tirelessly and diligently alongside and together with our people for what sometimes seems a very coveted achievement. But instead of the system rewarding us for achievement, we are denied access to concessional funding on the basis that we're classified as quote-unquote high income. The system fails to acknowledge that we remain vulnerable to several circumstances, principally vulnerable to externally created events such as climate change, natural disasters, imported inflation, high cost of energy, and imported goods. Consequently, it is a never-ending task of our foreign policy to focus international attention on those matters, and never to stop, however discouraging it becomes sometimes. In this regard, as a small country from time to time, we form alliances with more powerful nations based on issues in which we have shared and common interest. We are an ally on the principles and values that our society upholds. And we are critical on issues that erode those principles and values anywhere in the world. We do not compromise on those tenets of our foreign policy. And as your humble servant charged with the administration of the nation's foreign policy, I give this nation, through this parliament, a commitment to never shy away, never shirk away from undertaking and standing for those principles enunciated in our foreign policy. That is the reputation that we have earned. It's a reputation that we will continue to maintain. Mr. Speaker, my ministry has a small budget allocation with which to carry out a very large task. It has caused us over the years to utilize little to do much, but we have not shirked away from the task. Today, as I mentioned earlier, 1 year in advance of the 2024 budget, I make an appeal to the Minister and Ministry of Finance for increased allocations for the Foreign Ministry in furtherance of the work we do. We recognize that sacrifice is necessary for the common good, and we have, over the last 5 years, made those sacrifices. However, it is worth noting that there is no aspect, absolutely no aspect, of the nation's affairs in which the Foreign Ministry does not play a part, either in support or in direct participation. The Ministry and our embassies and consulates are involved in cross-cutting issues that involve the Ministry of Finance, Legal Affairs, the Police and ONDCP, Port Authority, Health, Education, Environment, CIP, Women's Affairs, Economic Development and Investment, to name a few. I should also mention that at every step of the way, we have kept the Honorable Prime Minister abreast and apprised of the work we do. Through the efforts of our esteemed and hard-working diplomats in the US, London, Cuba, Jordan, Greece, Lebanon, Spain, and Canada, Liechtenstein, Monaco, and even here in Antigua and Barbuda, we continue and will continue to adapt and explore innovative strategies to deal with the challenges of rising food prices associated with the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing war in Ukraine, as well as the impact of climate change. The Caribbean Community, CARICOM, the OECS, through regional institutions like CAF and PAHO, and we continue bilateral support from friendly partners such as China, India, Venezuela, Cuba, US, UK, Canada, European Union, to include Spain, Germany, and France. Japan and South Korea have all made significant contributions in assisting our country in our fight against the disruptive and deadly disease, COVID-19. As a ministry, Mr. Speaker, we've been able to maintain and increase diplomatic relations with approximately 160 countries, with 47 of those having accredited ambassadors to Antigua and Barbuda. Increasing our visa access for approximately 163 countries and territories has helped Antigua and Barbuda and our passport to become competitive and our CIP program to become even more attractive. The work of our ambassadors and our missions continue to pay dividends and allow the name and image and involvement of Antigua and Barbuda within the multilateral sphere to be effective and rewarding. I want at this time to pay recognition to His Excellency Sir Ronald Saunders, who continues to play a very critical role in facilitating good relations between Antigua, Barbuda and the US at what undoubtedly is the most critical period in world history. His leadership within the OAS has brought significant benefits not only to Antigua and Barbuda, but to the entire Caribbean and Latin American region. Mr. Speaker, allow me at this time to also recognize 40 years of unbroken service to this nation on the part of His Excellency Sir Ramis Hadid. 40 years of unbroken service, distinguished diplomatic service to the nation, which has signaled the importance of continuity and consistency in diplomatic relations and engagements. It is said in diplomatic circles, Mr. Speaker, that diplomacy is like banking. It's about building up a deposit of goodwill that you can use when necessary. I think that phrase epitomizes and personifies Sir Ramis, who represents the ultimate Antiguan and Barbudan with the sole interest and desire to see the well-being of Antigua and Barbuda, his homeland, and our people. Again, I don't think Sir Ramis will continue much longer in the service. The Prime Minister has the option also to reshuffle his cabinet at any time. And so I may not be Foreign Minister. And so I use the opportunity today, 40 years on, to place in the records of Hansard our abiding appreciation for the sterling contributions made in the area of diplomacy by our very own Sir Ramis Hadid. The Speaker, Her Excellency Karen Mayhill, our High Commissioner in London, and non-resident ambassador to Germany, Ireland, Estonia, and Lithuania, I want to thank her for dedicated services as she continues to find innovative ways of obtaining tangible support to the country in areas of education, health, sports, and the performing arts. The expansion of our diplomatic ties to countries like Lebanon, Greece, Spain, Jordan, the UAE, and Turkey would have provided much-needed boost to our CIP program, thus enabling our economy to generate additional non-tax foreign exchange. Special commendations go out to all of our ambassadors for the work they have done and are called upon to do going forward. I should add to the plethora of ambassadors the work of His Excellency Dr. Walton Aubrey Webson, who anchors the nation's efforts at the United Nations based in New York. His write-up is long and will require me, Mr. Speaker, an hour, which I don't have. But I want to flag just one of the initiatives championed by Ambassador Webson, which comes to our shores next year, summer 2024. That's the hosting of the Fourth SIDS Conference. It will be undoubtedly the single largest event to come to Antigua and Barbuda, as world leaders come to this country to discuss and find solutions to the plight of small island developing states. Again, time does not allow me to go through the documentation of the SIDS conference, but I commit to my permanent secretary, who is somewhere in the gallery, that we will, and technicians, that we will continue, or begin as of now, to share information on the SIDS conference with the public, because we're going to need scores and scores of volunteers. We're going to need hundreds of vehicles. We're going to need to have a network of support services and systems like we have never before seen. There's some who believe it was small to host that kind of conference, but again, our ambitions are large. You're right, somebody said this morning, we say this everything big. We don't only think big, we act big. We're part of a global community, and we are demanding and commanding our place and space in global relations. So, Speaker, looking ahead, for fiscal year 2023, we'll focus on increasing the nation's profile through the enhancement of visa-free access, promotion of UE, 5 islands, and the broadening of the ministry's diplomatic footprint regionally and internationally. I want to pause when I speak of UE and the commitment of broadening, deepening, increasing our profile and the promotion of the UE 5 island brand. When we brought this project to Antigua and Barbuda, we said it's, yes, primarily catering to the OECS countries. But let us not be fooled. UE 5 islands. Let us not dumb down ourselves. UE 5 islands is a university campus for the world coming from Antigua and Barbuda. We want students from across the globe to be here in St. John's, in 5 islands, at UE. The more they come, is the more we expand. And so, Mr. Prime Minister, 80 million from the Saudis? US. If I don't say US, if I don't say East, it's US. 80 million US from the Saudis is the beginning of the expansion program for UE, given the ambition, the vision we have for this campus here in Antigua at 5 islands. Deepen and strengthen our relations, Mr. Speaker, with the United States of America will be critical in my ministry's effort to ensure peace and prosperity within our Western Hemisphere. In this regard, Antigua and Barbuda will continue to call for the lifting of the United States economic embargo imposed on the government and people of Cuba. I want to repeat it. We've been saying this for years and years and years. Every time we go to the United Nations, we repeat it. It's the most etched in our psyche. And we do so because it is the right thing to do. The U.S. blockade, economic embargo and blockade against Cuba, it is not just. And Antigua and Barbuda, given our relations with Cuba, we are doing the right thing, the honorable thing, to ask a friendly government in the United States to ease the blockade, lift the blockade, and another friendly country of ours, Cuba. And so I know that every year this statement I read to the Parliament in the Constitutional Budget is listened to and followed by ambassadors, both those resident in Antigua and Barbuda and those who have relations with Antigua and Barbuda. And so this year, without fail, we ask the U.S. government once again to lift that economic blockade and embargo against Cuba. It is causing the people of Cuba too much hardship. The ministry will continue to strengthen and enhance bilateral and multilateral relations with the people of China. Efforts will continue to forge and strengthen collaboration, unity, and foster increased trade, investment, and people-to-people engagement between Antigua and Barbuda and the motherland of Africa. I want to repeat it. And I'm not speaking out to the sheiky Africans. I'm speaking to the real Africans. Not those who just embrace Black History Month in February and discard Africans and their Afrocentricity after February. I'm talking to those of us who came from the Middle Passage or forebears, who have that level of respect for ancestral heritage. I want to say again that this government will continue to forge and strengthen collaboration, unity, foster increased trade and investment, and people-to-people engagements between Antigua and Barbuda and the motherland of Africa. As a follow-up to the historic first Caribbean or CARICOM African Summit held in September 2021, we are committed to the celebration of Africa Day on the 7th of September annually, as well as the formation of a Forum of African and Caribbean territories and states designed to enhance functional cooperation between the continent and the region and its people. Likewise, we will very determinedly work to enhance relations with the countries of Latin America. Through the continued efforts, Mr. Speaker, of His Excellency Ambassador Dobrin Omar, the Ministry will continue to support the efforts of our local reparations association as they continue the quest for reparatory justice, be it through seminars, forums, initiatives designed to strengthen relations of the regions with respect to the genocide against the indigenous people of chattel slavery. Seeking support for the preservation and conservation of our many heritage sites and the continued promotion of Nelson's Backyard as a UNESCO World Heritage Site will be another priority of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We will shortly announce the appointment of an ambassador to UNESCO. And the appointment of an ambassador to UNESCO has a single, solitary objective, that of leveraging the relations at the UNESCO for the preservation, restoration, and the build-out of all of those old fortifications. And those who have gone to Havana, Cuba, will know the Old Havana Project and how buildings as old as those we have there have been restored to their former glory, bringing value to the economy. As the MP for St. Paul's, and on the side I say, there is no value in having all those old fortifications crumbling day by day by day and claim that they're part of our history. After a while, we'll have nothing but the stones on the ground, which people take away after. We need to find investment to restore them, build out museums, heritage hotels, and the like, so that we can have them put back to economic value and benefit our people. All right, I heard that, Prime Minister, and I think he heard you too. Resolving the international trade dispute referred by my colleague from St. John's, who will not this morning, between the USA and Antigua Barbuda, remains a priority. In this regard, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will continue to provide technical guidance to the Antigua and Barbuda WTO gaming negotiating team and keep the lines of communication open, ensuring that Antigua and Barbuda can finally have what is our just due in this regard. On the issue of diaspora affairs, during the pandemic, Mr. Speaker, I participated in no fewer than 5 web meetings with diaspora communities. The Antigua and Barbuda citizens in the US, in Europe, or anywhere else in this world for that matter, we view them, we view you, our brothers and sisters, our fellow nationals, as critical components of the ongoing development of our country, and invite you to play an essential role in economic growth. It cannot be a come for election only. And there's a tete-a-tete between me as the foreign minister responsible for diaspora relations and our diaspora communities. I have it on good authority that the person who came to this country before the last elections did not spend the requisite time required by law, got registered, voted and left. You can't call yourself true patriots. You can't be in this process of developing this country just to vote in and vote out who you want. It has been a meaningful commitment to the nation. And I don't care which side you voted for. The ones I refer to, of course, voted the other side. But my commitment is I don't care which side you choose to vote for. You can't just come in a plane, less than 6 months, get registered because somebody in a registration center is compliant with your request. Vote and then leave the country. You have to play a meaningful role and part in the development of Antigua and Barbuda, and I call on the diaspora community to do just that. We talk about fresh beginnings, new vision. It is one that embraces and places a premium on the diaspora community. But likewise, to whom much is given, much is expected. Mr. Speaker, the work of our consul generals, and Marilyn in Toronto, Gilbert Bustani in Miami, Michelle Lightful in New York, will continue to ensure that citizens in those jurisdictions are engaged on a regular basis and given all the time required to make their contributions. My ministry will establish in 2023 honor consul offices in Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana. This is to ensure the timely provision of services to Antigua and Barbuda living in these Caribbean countries. It will also serve to deepen the integration process and our relations with these countries. For this reason, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be expected to operate in a more professional, better structured, and well-equipped environment. I will not go through, in initial time, some of the areas of improvement, except to say that the areas have been identified in consultation with my management team. Mr. Speaker, the provision of protocol services continues to be a critical and important function of the ministry as demand for such services have increased due to our increased profile at the national, regional, and international levels. During the period under review and through the efforts of our diplomats, a significant number of pledges for investments have been secured and a variety of projects and programs, some already realized, some to be realized. Mr. Speaker, as I said, I would not want to go much further because I realize that time is upon me, and I have, before I sit, to turn my attention to the most picturesque place in Antigua Barbuda, a beautiful place I call home, St. Paul's. Mr. Speaker, I wonder what's the question?
You have to see the mountains, the Shepherding Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, with all the 10 minutes left to me, I will turn my attention to St. Paul's. Again, I apologize to my technicians if any of the details you expected were not presented, but again, it's not the old system where talkers alike. I think after we saw the opening salvo from the leader opposition, we are obligated to review standing orders so as not to punish the nation or the parliament any further, anymore, on any other occasion. So, Speaker, on constitutional initiatives, I'm pleased to report the commencement and advanced work on the health clinic in Cops Cross.
You do know you've passed the hour and a half.
I have, by that craving, don't deserve 5 minutes, and I'll be as quick as I can with a long list of things here. The Speaker, I know what you're discussed.
5 minutes.
Yes, Speaker. The Cub Squads Clinic, the construction is ongoing and pretty much advanced. In the Empowerment Center in Liberta, we continue to have classes. UE5 Islands, we're in the second cohort of students. UE Open Campus, about to start its first course in another month's time. We're waiting Mr. Choi, or good comrade Choi, to start the second chance program. Sewing classes have commenced and continue. The return of steel band to the St. Paul's community after more than a 40-year hiatus. We have recreated an old steel band called the Black Eagles. And already you can see in social media circulating their practice sessions. I commend the parents and the youngsters. The enthusiasm is high, and let us continue to provide opportunities for people. The Speaker, a new initiative comes our way in 2023. As I assume the responsibility of the Minister of Agriculture, we're bringing for the first time to St. Paul's a farm-to-table project. The date for that will be announced shortly. Our annual With Money Juve will continue. I'm pleased to report also, and to announce rather, that on the 30th of March in the Liberta Primary School and on the 7th of April at the Cub Squad School, we'll be having our first series of town hall meetings where residents are invited to meet their representative and we discuss things in a family setting, of course, for the benefit of our community. Lands in Table Garden, let me thank the Minister of Lands. The lands have been already subdivided, have been demarcated, and it's just now for Chopper to start the distribution of lands. There's an oversubscription, and so, Minister, we're asking that additional lands be considered for opening up to people who are showing a thirst almost for lands. Our summer camp comes back this year. Dates for that will be mentioned shortly. Our back-to-school program will continue in the summer. Our senior citizens summer excursion, that is another staple. The Christmas parties, both for seniors and the communities as a whole, those will continue. Our health month in October, that's another staple to the St. Paul's community. So, Speaker, last year we did vision. We gave out nearly 1,000 glasses to persons in the community. And we will continue with a repeat of the vision screenings by popular demand. And we will add cancer services, cancer checks to that one. So, Speaker, the sports in the community that needs a look, and I use this opportunity to invite the management of the Liberta Sports Club to sit down to discuss the sports development of our community. And I use it at the same time, an opportunity to congratulate the Garden Stars football team in the first division program. It looks like Liberta is having one team leave Premier and another one go up to Premier. So we'll always have presence and representation at that high level. We'll continue, Mr. Speaker, to do the things that we've done and have been doing. I know there are those who say, Chet, you do all them something, and look and see, your margin drop. Well, suppose we did everything to do. We'll win Parliament today. So we will continue to do the things we've done because they benefit our people. Our food programs will continue. All the things we've done will continue because they bring value to our people. In this year, 2023, our community focus is on chivalry. Our male folk, you're called upon to pay special attention and pay deference to our females. And so 2023 is a year of chivalry in St. Paul's. I recognize, in closing, Mr. Speaker, members of my team, Conley Phillip, Driftwood, Jamal. I want to thank them for their hard work and dedication to the process. The work continues. And finally, Mr. Speaker, a Kiddies Park in English Harbour, that is another project to be undertaken. And for those who continue to complain about water and roads, those are work in progress. On Sunday, I went to a function, Saturday was in Falmouth. I was, inundated is an understatement, by the water challenges. I spoke to my colleague Minister of APUA, and already I know that there's solutions that they're working on for the water, easing the water problems in St. Paul's. For those who are still awaiting the promises of road repairs, I want to show you that based on a new program designed by the Ministry of Works, that St. Paul is certainly a part of the National Road Upgrade programs. I want to impress by my colleague Minister, however, that in St. Paul's, in a few weeks' time, we'll be hosting the National Staple Sailing Week. And so I don't know what the schedule is until we come to St. Paul's. We're asking if we're not on the schedule for this month coming up, that we at least be brought forward. We'll be brought forward so that at least the nation will have the benefit of roads upgraded in St. Paul's for the Sailing Week. And for those on the other side, us Apasa, who made a big song and dance about the Prime Minister must wait, I mean, come on. That was a comment in passing. Because why has he said that? The member for St. John's, Rural West. He got a road fixed before me in St. Paul's. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for your patience, and without trespassing any further on the patience of my colleagues and of the nation, I am humbled and honored to be given the responsibility of overseeing, managing the respective portfolio ministries of Foreign Affairs, Agriculture, Trade, and Barbary Affairs. And I recommit myself to service to this country and its people. Much love.